Growing up, one of my favorite TV shows was a little show called H2O, Just Add Water. It was a show about three teenage girls who had the magical ability to become mermaids when they touched water. And they had to fight to keep their identities a secret to avoid the consequences. I really wanted to be like them, human on land and mermaid at sea. And these three girls, they had to keep their identities a secret because they knew they were different. And I just wanted to be a mermaid. And, well, the universe delivered the not-so-good parts. Because what I wish I could tell you here today is that I am secretly a mermaid. But what I can actually tell you is my own story of the image of myself that exists inside of me and the one that exists inside everyone else. I first got into H2O when I was in primary school, when it came on TV after one of my favorite Disney cartoons at the time, Special Agent Oso. And H2O wasn't really something that I expected my 7-year-old self to be into, but I was hooked. And within days, I was coming to school pretending to be a mermaid. I would avoid water in classes and pretend I had these really awesome powers. Yeah, I was really popular. But unsurprising to me now, but surprisingly at the time, I was faced with a lot of criticism. And there was this kid in my class who would go to the teacher and tell on me for playing mermaids. But I didn't think anything of it at the time. Me and my best friend, Stickalina, we didn't take judgments from anyone. Yeah, Stickalina was a stick. But it was around then that I started realizing that I was a little different. I would get criticized for playing with girls and liking mermaids and wearing lip balm. In year 7, I discovered the term transgender. And transgender is a term that can be used to describe people who identify as something different from what they were assigned at birth. Now, my year 7 self, that's all I wanted to be. But I didn't know how. So I watched documentaries and YouTube videos and TED Talks even, and I did one of those quizzes like Nick Nelson and Heartstopper, but it was no use. I was trapped in the bubble of my Catholic primary school, surrounded by people who knew absolutely nothing about it. And suddenly my mermaid fantasy was becoming a little too real. I thought I knew who I was, but I had no one I could tell, and no one who could help, and no one I knew I could trust. In year 8, I discovered the term non-binary. Now, I liked this one. Not only did it feel a little bit more like me, but to my knowledge at the time, non-binary was a term a lot less stigmatized and lesser known than transgender. And you can throw the term non-binary around and nobody except for the techie coders would bat an eye. But I thought, yeah, that one's me. So here I am today. I'm queer, and queer is a term that some people can use to describe someone who's a part of the rainbow LGBTQ+ community. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Getting here today has not been the easiest journey, but I will say that I have been lucky. I've been really lucky to have been blessed with such a supportive community and to go to a supportive school where my queer identity is celebrated and not hidden away. To the point where I can say that some of my journey has been good. It's been really good. And that raised an important question for myself when reflecting on these experiences. I thought to myself, am I qualified enough to be talking about this? To be here in front of all of you, talking about the hardships of a queer life when I've had it good? I guess the reason I say that I've had it good is I've never had to formally come out to anyone or face the consequences for simply telling someone that I'm queer. And I say that because everyone has always kind of just assumed, and I've accepted that. And it got to the point where people would say to me, hey, can I ask you a random question? And I would come back with, yes, I am queer. So when I finally thought I'd figured myself out, I decided, yeah, I'm going to express myself the way that I saw myself. And for me, that meant replacing my blue shirt and grey school pants in favour of a white shirt and school skirt. and that made me happy. And people were finally seeing me the way that I saw myself at the time. But as much as I loved the way that people perceived me, it still felt wrong. And it still felt like there was something missing. But I was too scared to say that. I was worried that people would criticize me for changing myself again, and I was more worried than when I expressed myself in the first place. But I now know that I am gender fluid, and my pronouns are they, them. And being gender fluid for me means that my gender isn't fixed as one thing. So one day I could be masculine, and another day I could present feminine, or sometimes I could be neither. And it was like I think of it as my own little shape-shifting superpower. But I didn't always know that this is what I was. I thought I was transgender for a long time, so when I started presenting myself as such, I was met with so much love and support. But as my journey went on, I found it hard to tell people that that wasn't who I was anymore. An image of myself already existed in everyone else's minds that I was too afraid to change. And I worried that people would tell me that what I was doing was wrong, or that I was confining back to who I thought I was before. The problem that prevented me from continuing on my journey to discovering my identity was the fear of that identity being dictated by others. That other people were going to tell me that I'm wrong for showing them who I am. In too many places, rules and laws are being put into place that negatively affect queer people. And these decisions are being made by people who are not queer. Last year, I attended a trans rights protest outside of an event centre that was hosting an anti-trans event. And this anti-trans event was promoting ideologies that negatively impact and harm the trans community in Aotearoa. This event later got reported on by the news, in which they interviewed the people outside the building, as well as those inside the building who were hosting the event, and promoting and allowing them to promote their anti-trans arguments on live television. Too often are the lives and rights of queer people being debated upon by people who are not queer. When queer people are told who they are and what they can and cannot do by people who are not in the community, it not only leads to fear within the community, but also heightens the danger in our community spaces. And that not only applies to my own communities, but to all of you. The story that I've been telling you here today of my life is unique, and there is no other story like it. And it's the same with all of yours. Behind the faces of the people who pass us by is a story that tells so much more than meets the eye. It has taken me multiple years of learning, discovery, and exploration to figure out who I am, yet I still get told who I really am to this day. But after learning to overcome that, I now aim to be a safe person for anyone who identifies as queer or is still figuring it out. And after gaining the confidence and taking pride in who I know myself to be, I gave this speech because I know my story. And as little of a step as it may seem, it helped me learn that you don't need to be told who you are by somebody who isn't you. And you don't need to fit the image of yourself that exists inside of everyone else's minds, because that isn't you. And it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to figure yourself out, because the only person in the entire world who knows who you are is yourself. I'm so grateful to live in a community where people like me have the opportunity to receive love and support. But I know that I can't speak for every queer individual out there, because they all have their own stories, stories that are vastly different from my own, and I cannot speak for them. Nobody can, except themselves. The lives and stories of queer people are not there to be someone's debate. And neither are the lives of the people sitting around you right now, no matter what school systems or governments or anyone says. We are here, and we own our stories. And of the hundreds of brilliant, unique stories inside the minds of each and every one of you here today, this has been me telling you mine. Thank you.